Yo, how you guys doing? It's your boy Basically back out again with another CFB26 video. Huge shout outs to all you beautiful bastards. We just hit 3K subs on YouTube. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys, whether you're an OG of mine, whether you're new to the fam. I appreciate you guys, whether you pull up to the streams, whether you show up to the videos, whether you comment, like, share the Discord. I appreciate you guys. You mean the absolute world to me. And yeah, what are we doing? What are we yapping about today, basically? So this series has been kind of a long time in the making, has some technical difficulties in the backgrounds, which I may or may not yap about during the video. But either way, if you watch my 3-part mini documentary series, whatever you want to call it, on the perk category Strategist, in that 3-part mini series I did on Strategist, you've heard me reference saying that Tier 4 Mind Reader is useless because you can use outlier stats to, with a very high rate, determine if someone has a good dev trait. I've referenced that several times in my streams. I constantly talk about it. It was a fun little mini game I play on my stream where it's like, hey, dev, rather than playing who's that Pokemon, we play what's that dev trait, where I show someone a dev trait and I see how much my audience is, retained information I've given them. So many of you beautiful bastards, so many of you have been like, hey, basically, we need an in-depth video explaining this. I'm like, I got you. So now here's that video. I don't have a working title for the series. This is going to be the first of many comment questions I need you guys to fill. What are we going to name the series? Whatever is the most liked comment down below, or my favorite, title that I read, I will choose that. I will make sure to give you a shout out in my next episode. But this video is how to spot elite dev and star dev QBs that, regardless of archetype. I will show you the sauce. I will show you the data for pocket passers, for dual threat athletes, for backfield creators, and sorry, but pure runners don't exist. I've seen maybe on one hand how many pure runner 4 and 5 stars I've ever seen in my life. So they're not going to be really in this video, but everyone else will. So if you can, slap a like on this video. And if you want to wait to have me earn that like button, I totally understand. If you learn anything or find something mildly entertaining, slap a like then. But Beastly, what are you yapping about? What are these things called outlier stats? So essentially, I'll have plenty of examples to show you. Don't worry. Outlier stats is a category of stat that is so astronomically high that it makes them, like a unicorn, right? There's stats that they possess that most people do not have. And as you could probably guess, depending on the QB archetype does change the stats you're looking for. Easy example. On pocket passing quarterbacks, you wouldn't expect a pocket passing QB to have the running stats of a dual threat athlete or a dual threat, right? That just makes sense. On average, most backfield creators are also going to be faster than them or around the same speed. So you're not going to judge a pocket passer the same way you would judge the others, but vice versa, right? You wouldn't expect a backfield threat to have the same throw power of a pocket passing QB. So each one of them does have their own little nuances to what they, do and don't have. But a lot of these tips, a lot of these tricks are universal for all the QB categories. And if you guys enjoy this video, this deep dive, what have you, let me know down below if you would like this for all the series. I might just do this for the important ones like QB, pass rusher, corner, and receiver and stuff like that. But I might do it with every single position. Again, let me know in the comments, depending on how this series does or doesn't do. I might continue it or not. But as you can see, with Max Polk, he's a 5-star pocket passing QB elite dev. I have not upgraded him. He is still normal. In terms of tokens, he's a backup. He will never see my field. Not this year anyways. Let's go check out his stats and let me know if any of these stats sound like I'm repeating myself. So Mr. Max over here, Mr. Polk, has mid to low 80s for deep and medium and very high 80s for short. Interesting. He has 95 throw power, and for his speed is 81, his excel is 82. Interesting. Keep those numbers in the back of your head. So now I've flipped over to a different dynasty. Here's a Philip over here, who's a 5-star pocket passing QB elite dev. Again, 0 tokens, never spent any. He's been a deep backup. Let's go look at his stats and his, general range, shall we? His medium and deep is low 80s again. His throw short is mid 80s. So we have a bunch of low 80s and mid 80s for throwing stats. Interesting. He has 93 throw power, and under his quickness, he has 80 to 84 acceleration / speed. Notice a trend here. Both of these QBs, whether they're 4 stars or 5 stars, that's another thing I probably should have said this earlier in the video. I do apologize. This video will be primarily covering 4 and 5-star prospects. Not that there aren't 3-star elite and 3-star star dev players. There are. The issue, though, is a vast, vast, vast majority of 3 stars are impact dev or normal dev. And so I'm not saying that you can't find a 3-star elite or a 3-star star dev. You totally can. But if you're going to look for fish, if you're going to be a fisherman, you should probably look for the fish where the fish are, you know? If you're looking for the elite devs, if you're looking for the star devs, you should probably be looking in the area in which they are most common. Again, not saying that they don't exist. They do. But for this video, 3 stars, 2 stars, and 1 stars do not exist in this video, just because the odds of finding one of those every single cycle is very slim. So just there's no point in even accounting for that. But as you've seen with these last 2 examples, generally speaking, short accuracy, either high 80s or mid 80s, medium/deep accuracy is low to mid 80s, throw power 93 plus, and then speed between, 80, 81 speed with like 82 to 84 excel. Both of these QBs have very, very, very similar stats, and they're both elite dev. Beastly, you wouldn't happen to have a third example to, really hammer your point in home, would you? Really? Now, if you've been watching my recent series, I've been rebuilding Penn State post James Franklin. If you haven't watched the streams, I highly recommend you watching it. It's been a very fun series. Even on this series, I found an elite 4-star pocket passing QB. Now, this guy does have tokens, upper right corner. He sat out his freshman year. However, he's the 4th or 3rd string quarterback I have. He is not seeing the field this year. He is just sitting there getting tokens, collecting, getting better. If you're curious how I get so many tokens each cycle, I have a whole series in my How To Dynasty series. Go watch those videos if you have any questions. There you go. But this quarterback's a 4-star, so he's a 1-star QB less. The last two have been 5-star pocket passers. This guy's a 4-star. Let's look at his stats, shall we? But they're all 3 elite devs, right? So I must know something if I'm, elite dev, elite dev, elite dev, Let's look at his stats, right? So his throwing stats, again, short accuracy, high to mid 80s, 84. His medium to deep accuracy is low to mid 80s. His deep is a bit, bad at 76, but medium follows suit, short follows suit. Throw under pressure, throw on the run also follow suit. All of those generally check except for deep. His deep's a little low, but again, that's because he's a 4-star, not a 5-star. There is some difference between 5 and 4-star QBs, but it's not very big. Throw power, as you can see, 94 throw power. If you're noticing a trend here with numbers, that's kind of how you know if they're good or not, is the numbers. 94 throw power, okay, checks that box. And then we check his speed, again, 81 speed. Now his accelerations, again, is pretty bad at 75. So unlike this prospect compared to the previous 2, he has less acceleration than the previous 2 and less throw deep than the other 2. But everything else is pretty much a copy and paste, the exact same. So Beastly, what are you saying, man? What I'm saying is within a high, again, not 100%. I'm not AI. I'm not doing voodoo witchcraft magic. Within a very high ratio or reasonable margin of error, you could predict a pocket passing QB's dev trait based off their throwing stats, based off their throwing power, and based off their speed/acceleration. That's it. Elusiveness, IQ, this does not matter. Whether they're a 4-star or a 5-star, if they're a pocket passing QB and they meet certain criteria within a very, very, very high margin of error, you can guess either elite or star dev. Now, for me, personally, I don't care. Between star dev or elite dev, it does not matter. In my opinion, from my hundreds of seasons I've played, from the thousands of kids I've recruited, pull up to the streams if you want to watch any of this, how the magic is done live. But from all of my testing, from all my rebuilds, from all the stuff I've done, the gap between impact dev and normal dev is very small. The gap between star dev and elite dev is very small. However, the gap between impact dev and star dev is massive. So generally, don't be disappointed or sad with yourself if you end up getting a star dev QB or an elite dev QB. Don't be like, oh darn, I got the star dev. That's still really good, right? Furthermore, I always say this over and over and over again in my videos, but I'm going to keep saying it so people learn it. Dev traits can be basically predicted by stats, and dev traits also predict skill caps. Generally speaking, if you go back and rewatch the video, the 2 previous pocket passers I've shown you don't have any skill caps. They're elite dev, right? Star players do have skill caps, not as many, but they do have skill caps. And this gentleman, also elite dev, 3 back-to-back-to-back examples of all 3 elite devs on 3 different accounts or 3 different dynasties. And notice all 3 of them basically have no skill caps. This is the reason why I kind of laugh at the videos and the content creators who say that, oh, if you want a fast quarterback, you have to go recruit a dual threat athlete with like 90 speed. No, you don't. If you just recruit a good QB, and don't worry, I'll show you more examples throughout this video. It doesn't matter what archetype QB you get, whether you pick a pocket passer, a backfield creator, a regular dual threat, or a dual threat athlete. You can get them all to 99 speed as long as you get a star or elite dev prospect, right? This gentleman, Glenn Pilgrim, by the time he steps onto the field, I can promise you he's going to have 99 speed. I can assure you he will be speed capped. He's a pocket passing QB. This whole misconception of, oh, you got to get athletes because they're faster than everybody. Yes, on average, are athletes faster than non-athletes? Yes. But that's just their initial speed. That does not have any indication of their final speed, right? This guy's starting off with 81 speed, 75 excel. I would be willing to bet if I maxed him, he's going to be finished with like 94 to 98 speed and like 94 to 98 acceleration. Like it's stupid. Don't go after prospects solely based off their initial stats. Look for their potential, look for their long-term. And if they have great initial stats, sure, go ahead. But that's not the end-all be-all, I promise you. You can do a lot in this game if you have the right perks, the right build, and you know what you're doing, I promise. So if the last three examples really haven't shown you what you should be looking for, if you really, are just struggling to see it, here you go. Sam Hunt is a 5-star pocket passing QB. He's a gem. It says the gem right there. Please don't look at gems, right? Gems are not the end-all be-all for QB's prospects. I have a special example I'm going to show you a little bit into the video. But all gems indicate is that there is a dev trait. But there are multiple dev traits that's not named normal, meaning that could be impact, that could be star, that could be elite. However, if you look at the stats the person has, and if they have a gem, with a very, very, very high margin of error, you could pretty much guess, wait, this guy has 98 throw power, he's a pocket passer, he's a gem, which means he's probably he's impact, star, or elite, but hey, there's no way he's impact because that's 98 throw power, that's absurdly, above average, meaning he's a 50-50 coin flip between star or elite. Now, in that example I gave you, 98 throw power is so above average, the answer is obviously elite dev, but it's not just throw power, it could be speed, right? If you find a pocket passing QB with 87 speed, right? I don't care what his throw power is. I don't care what any stat he has. Dude's an 87 speed pocket passer. He's going to be special, right? The gem is cool. The gem is more the game's way of saying, hey, pay attention to this prospect, look further. But by no means do you have to have a gem to find a generational prospect. You don't. Again, I'll show you examples in a moment, but don't. And as you can see, this quarterback right here, Sam Hunt, fits the bill. He fits the archetype. 93 plus throw power. He has 94. Check. Throwing stats. Accuracy, specifically short accuracy. 84. Check. Medium to high 80s throwing accuracy. Deep and... excuse me. That was short. Medium and deep is 80 plus. Check, check. Then you look at speed. 81 excel. Check. 83 speed. Check. Regardless if the gem was there, this guy was going to be a super stud. There you go. I can keep showing you the examples, but at some point, pattern recognition has to kick in. Like at some point, you got to be like, I think I see what you're talking about. But again, the criteria you're judging pocket passers for will change when you're doing other QBs. Just keep that in mind. As another example I can give you, let's look at this QB, Randy Burfict. Must be the offspring of Vontez Burfict. I wonder if he's as dirty as his dad was. Anywho, let's look at this gentleman who's star dev, right? He's one development down a peg. He still has the gem, meaning go look at him. Let's look at his stats, shall we? 93 plus throw power. Check. 95. Easy. Let's look. Throw short. 83. Check. Mid to high 80s throw short. Check. Deep and medium. Check, check. 80 plus. There you go. He fits every criteria so far. But do you see the one criteria he doesn't fit? He is 79 speed and 79 excel. He's slightly below average, or not really below average, but slightly below the threshold we want to be elite. There you go. So these margins of error, I can assure you guys, the difference between elite devs and star devs typically is not much. Right? Obviously, skill caps do factor a ton, but whether you prefer Sam Hunt or you prefer Randy Burfict, Both of these QBs are amazing, right? Straight up, both of them are amazing. You would be more than happy to have them both, right? If you want one for his mental abilities over the other, I can see why. If you don't care about mentals like me, you can see why. I'm going to get asked this question probably in the comments of this video. No, there's no correlation between abilities, mental abilities, and dev traits. There's none. I have seen, like this guy, plenty of examples of players who have elite dev with no abilities and no mentals, and I've seen players with like 2 or 3 platinum abilities and having elite dev. Abilities and mentals are completely random. They have no correlation to anything. But as you can see, this QB is almost perfect. He fits the bill so much, but unfortunately he has below average break sack. Unfortunately, he has below average throw under pressure, and unfortunately, he has below average speed and acceleration, and all of those little tiny details are the reason why he's a star dev and not elite. While we're on the topic of just the tiniest details, let's go look at an impact dev QB, right? Let's look at this go, 4-star pocket passer QB, yada, yada, yada. Throw power, 93 plus, no. 90, already big oof there. X. Throw accuracy short, 83. Not that bad, pretty good. Medium, 80 plus. Hey, that's pretty good. Throw accuracy deep, 75. No, very bad. There's his second X. Then let's check out his speed, 76. X again, that's a well below 80. So if you can see here, the more players don't fit what you're looking for, the more it pulls their dev trait down. Right, as you guys can see, this guy is lacking throw power, throw deep, or deep action, and speed. Obviously, he's not going to be an elite dev or star dev. He's lacking the fundamental stats to do that. All of this being said, as you can see, there's a direct correlation between stats, the general cluster they have, and their dev trait. Like I said earlier in the video, with a very high margin of error, you can pretty confidently guess, especially ballparking it, whether or not they're going to be superstar / star or elite versus being normal or impact. Here's the sad part to this. It's not 100%. You will find outliers. You will find random star dev and random elite dev QBs and across the board that don't fit the status quo, right? I can, if I stared hard enough, if I looked long enough, I could probably find an elite dev or star dev pocket passing QB with like 86 throw power, right? Do outliers exist? Yes. This is a game of numbers, and just like in real life and poker, you can do everything in your favor. You could put the odds in your favor. You could do everything perfect, and then the river comes out and just you get dicked. Just how life goes. The game's the same way. You are not going to guess 100% of dev traits 100% of the time. Some players who look like automatic locks for elite dev will end up being normal or impact. Some players who you think are normal or impact will end up with star or elite. However, that does not mean you should just completely give up. And like I said, you can pretty consistently do it. Is it 100%? No. Is it, ballparking it 70, 80%? Yes. Just as a general reference point. The next category we're going to cover is dual threat athletes. If you're curious why I have to make a distinction between dual threat athletes and regular dual threats, it's because on average, dual threat athletes do have higher throw power and higher speed than their counterpart, the regular dual threats. However, the regular dual threats on average have better throwing stats. So if you're curious, I have to make a distinction, because if you look for the same criteria that a dual threat has compared to a dual threat athlete, they're going to have issues, you're going to have distinctions, and then you're not going to have a fun time. So they are in different categories. This category is specifically for dual threat athletes. As you can see on my Rice account, I have a 5-star elite dev dual threat athlete. Let's go look at his stats, shall we? Just like the pocket passer, and just like the regular dual threats, and just like the backfield creators, you're going to notice some stats do transcend from archetype to archetype. Some don't. Accuracy is one of them. So for accuracy, on average, with dual threat athletes, just like with pocket passers, you want medium to high 80s for throw short and throw medium. That still says the only difference is throw deep. Will there be a dual threat athlete with very high throw deep? Yes, you can find those. But statistically speaking, analytically speaking, a vast majority of the time, your 4- and 5-star dual threat athletes are going to be ballparking at somewhere between like 66 and like 70, 71 throw deep. So don't look at a dual threat athlete like, ooh, 70 throw deep, yuck, you suck. That's not how that works. Different QBs, different play styles, different stats. But the rest of them is very similar. Medium, short, very similar. Obviously, throw on the run is going to be higher on a athlete than a pocket passer. That goes without saying, but I guess I should include that just in case. Throw power, 95. If you're going to see a trend here, regardless of what, QB archetype you have, having throw power kind of matters. That's kind of a very, very, very important stat along with others as well, but throw power is very important. He is 95. Going back to the whole, is it higher than 93? Yes or no? 95. There you go. Next is speed. He has 87 speed and 89 acceleration. Obviously, he's going to be faster, or most athlete QBs on average will be faster than most pocket passing QBs on average. But how above average do you have to be elite like Kevin Vaughn? From my testing, from my experience, the speed threshold of dual threat athletes to be elite dev or star dev is anywhere between like the high 80s and low 90s. So if you see a dual threat QB, whether it's a 3-star, a 4-star, or a 5-star, and that dude has like 91, 90 speed and like 91, 92, 93 throw power, there's a very good chance that there's something special there. Again, not 100%, but a very good chance. So yeah, there's just one example, the first of many examples with dual threat athletes, but very similar throwing archetypes, except for throw deep. That's pretty different. Very similar throw power, very similar. And then obviously the big gap between athlete dual threats and regular pocket passers is the speed, obviously. So on our second example of a dual threat athlete, let's go to my ECU dynasty as just more example. Let's look at his throwing stats and let's see if we see any repeat numbers. 86 throw short, again, medium to high 80s. 86 would be medium to high 80s for throw short, check. 80 throw medium, check, hits that box. Throw under pressure, 73, about average. Throw on a run, 80 plus, check, hits that box. Throw deep, 82. As you can see, that's 12 overall higher than the other guy. Shows you just how much wiggle room you have with that throw deep. A ton of wiggle room. Throw power, 94. Again, you should be seeing some numbers, seeing some trends, seeing some data here, some points that are going to be like, that makes sense, Beastly. And then lastly, his speed, 86 speed and 88 excel. So he's only slightly slower than the other gentleman, and he's a 4-star. So as you can see with dual threat athletes, 93 plus throw power, look for that just like pocket passers, check. High 80s, check, which you want to have that for speed and acceleration. And then for throwing stats, as long as these shorts high, or I say high, but medium to high 80s for short, medium to high 80s for medium, and then obviously, anywhere from like 65 to like 80 throw, deep. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom. And you have most of the time a god tier dual threat athlete, whether it's a 4-star or 5-star. Now, unfortunately, the reason why this video has taken so long to get delayed, I had a little hiccup where the previous file that I recorded unfortunately got corrupted, the audio was destroyed, and I had a just mangled mess in which I would have had to basically re-narrate over everything. So rather than me scrapping the footage, I am going to use some of the footage and then try to remaster the original. So I do apologize. This does not look as great as I would like it to. Again, do apologize. But I did this entire thing. It took me several hours of just getting, sections and getting things, data points saved. And unfortunately, all that was for nothing. But just like with the pocket passers, I wanted to show you a sliding scale of stats to look for and why a dev trait is the way it is. So I have 4 examples for dual threat athletes, and as you will see, they go in order: normal to impact to elite to star to elite, excuse me. And as you'll see, there's very distinct differences for why it does go in ascending overall. The first 4-star dual threat athlete QB, Greg, not even going to try to pronounce your name, from Michigan, 94 throw power. Okay, he has the throw power, check. Short, medium to high 80s, check. Medium to high 80s, check. Deep, medium to high 80s. Speed, 84. What? But Beastly, how is this guy normal? He has amazing stats, and you are correct. He does have amazing stats compared to regular dual threats or compared to pocket passers. But again, he's not a regular dual threat. He's not a regular pocket passer. He's a dual threat athlete, right? There's a big distinction there. It's why they are in different categories and they have different stats. So if this was a pocket passing QB, I would say he's generational. If this was a regular dual threat, I would say this is generational. But for a dual threat athlete, as you'll see, that's really mid. That is really mid. Having 84 speed is really mid. which is unfortunate, the thing that really holds him down, because he's pretty good at everything else. The next dual threat athlete we'll look at is Nate Ismail, who went to Florida. Again, dual threat athlete, 4-star, like the others and most of the ones before him. 93 throw power, check. 85 short, check. Medium to deep, check, check. 90 acceleration, 85 speed. There you go. If you want to know the difference, why that dual threat athlete is impact and why that other dual threat athlete is normal dev, that's why. This dude has slightly better speed and slightly better acceleration, which makes him as a slightly better QB. Again, the gap between most normal and impact dev QBs, or not even just QBs, most normal or impact dev prospects in general is very small. Just like the gap between elite dev and star dev is very small. But as you're going to see momentarily, the gap between impact and star is insane. The next dual threat athlete we'll look at is Jeffrey Hurtado. What a awesome name, EA. 93 throw power, check again. 85 short, check. 85 medium, check. 83 deep, check. Notice how with this one, he has slightly higher medium accuracy than the previous two. Little detail there. Deep, 83. Again, notice how it compared to the impact dev. Again, these aren't like, you got to pay really close attention to these things. All of them do matter. I promise they matter. But the big, giveaway is the speed, right? The other guy had 85 or 84 speed. This gentleman has 89 speed. Other guy had 90 XL. This guy's 92 XL. So as you can see, for the throwing stats, it's within like 1 or 2 points for everything. However, for speed, there's a 4 or 5 speed difference and a 2 or 3 acceleration difference. It's a very, very, very big gap. And since you know that the stat that matters the most for dual threat athletes is speed, obviously it's not the only stat that matters. Please don't go looking for dual threat athletes only with speed. But if you have the combination of speed, throw power, and throwing stats, generally speaking, statistically speaking, most of the time, they will be star or elite dev. But yeah, there's again, big jump between the impact QB that was a dual threat athlete versus the star dev. And then last but not least, we have the holy grail, the elite dev, the guy who's on the thumbnail of this video, and the guy who I really wish I could have got to play with because he was a generational QB with no skill caps. And unfortunately, the footage of him and the dynasty he was in is now gone to the sands of time. But this prospect was insane. Earl Smith, the elite dev, again, going back to the point of no mental abilities, no physical abilities. Again, they have no correlation with dev trait. As you can see with Earl Smith, who was the best 4-star / 5-star dual threat athlete I've ever seen in this game. And I really wish I could have got to play with him. 94 throw power, hits that box, check. 85 short accuracy, check that box. 82 medium, checks that box. 82 deep, checks that box. But the thing that gives him away and what makes him better than the star dev before him and the impact dev before him and the normal guy before him is the speed. 91 speed for a dual threat athlete and 88 XL. That's insane. But again, notice how all the throw powers are generally the same. All the throw accuracies were generally the same. For the most part, most of the stats were the same. But notice how as the speed kept incrementally getting higher and higher and higher and higher, the dev traits were getting better and better and better. By no means am I saying every 92, 93 speed dual threat athlete, 3-star, 4-star, or 5-star is automatically elite dev. No, pay attention to the throwing stats, pay attention to the throw power. I have done probably hundreds and hundreds of classes making this video, learning data points and jotting everything down. You would not believe the amount of QBs that are specifically dual threat athletes that'll have 90, 91, 92 speed, but they'll have like 83 throw power. It's like, obviously they're not going to be a good quarterback with 83 throw power. At that point, they're basically a glorified running back. Make them a running back. But that's why I'm telling you, it's not ever typically a one stat thing. It's normally a conglomerate of stats, a bunch of stats. That's where it does matter. That's where the differences do lie, is the accumulative stats. So please don't leave me a comment saying, hey, YouTuber, I followed your parameters and this guy was normal dev. I assure you, most of the time, if they have absurdly high speed, absurdly high throw power, and mid-80s throwing stats, and they're a dual threat athlete archetype, most of the time they're going to be star or elite dev. So there you go. And just because we're already on the subject, I guess the third quarterback we will cover are going to be regular dual threats. As you can see, Larry Teo, this 5-star regular dual threat. Let's go look at his stats, shall we? 94 throw power, check. 80 plus short, 80 plus medium, check, check. Deep accuracy, 68. Boom. There you go. There you go. That's the fluctuation, like I mentioned, whether it's 66, 68. You know, the deep accuracy can be like all over the place, but there you go. Typically, dual threat athletes, as you saw, all the dual threat athlete 4 stars and 5 stars had much better throw deep. Typically, they do. That's just how that works. Speed, acceleration, 84, 87. There you go. The one stat that really does differentiate between regular dual threats and dual threats athletes is speed. Obviously, an elite dev dual threat athlete is going to have far more speed than the regular dual threat counterparts. By no means am I saying dual threats are slow. They're not. They're called dual threats for a reason. But I have seen dual threats be elite dev with like 83, 84, 82 speed. And typically, I don't think I've ever seen an elite dev dual threat athlete with lower than like 88, 89, 90 speed. So the main difference between, again, the athlete and the regular non-athlete is mostly speed. The athletes will be faster and also have better throw deep, whereas the regular dual threats will typically have better throw power, again, on average, throw power and better throwing stats, better throw under pressure, and, throw under run, stuff like that. But just because we're on the topic of dual threats, let's cover all of them. So there's an example of a elite dual threat, and there's the stats, and now we're going to go in descending order like we have done for the previous two. So if the elite dev quarterback had 94 throw power and 84 speed, what would you think the star dev quarterback would have? There you go. 91 throw power does not meet the 93 check criteria. Check. Again, 80 throw short, check. Hits that one, but as you can see, does not meet the criteria for the medium accuracy or the deep, or actually, it does meet for the deep, but fails the throw power check, fails the medium accuracy check, and fails the speed check. 79 speed. However, does hit the acceleration check, does hit the throw deep check. So this is kind of an example of what I would refer to as on the line, right? Not every elite dev or star dev prospect will be obvious. Sometimes it's random. Sometimes, again, you could put yourself in the best situation and 80 to 85% of the time you will be correct, but the game always has that 10 to 15% chance of just being like, fuck you. It's really annoying. Again, you'll see it a lot with 3 stars, typically less with 4 and 5 stars, but typically with 3 stars, you'll see some of the players with the worst stats ever, and somehow they're elite dev or star dev, and then you'll see players with great stats, and they're somehow normal dev. 3 stars and below, it's kind of a crapshoot, but at least with 4 and 5 stars, you can consistently do those. But yeah, this guy I would say would be on the fringe, where basically I wouldn't go after him, but again, he's kind of toting that line of impact or star, and I feel like he just barely meets the star criteria. I feel like if he had just a little less throw short or a little less accuracy, he would be impact. But again, it shows you how tight the lines are with these margin of errors. The next QB we are going to go in, descending order is impact. Throw power check. Does he have the throw power? Check. Yes, he does. 93 plus throw power. Check. Does he have the short accuracy? Check. Yes, he does. Does he have the medium check? No, he does not. Does he have the deep accuracy check? No, he does not. Does he have the speed check? No, he does not. So as you can see, like with the previous gentleman I showed you, how that dude was like 1 or 2 points away from being an impact dev player, how he really towed the line of barely being star dev. This is kind of what I was alluding to, where those 2 players are pretty much identical, yet one's star dev, one's impact dev. They both do have a dev trait, so you can still find if your goal is just for a dev trait, that's far easier to achieve. But if you're looking for a good dev trait or a generational dev trait, the lines there can be very, very thin. So you got to pay really close attention. And then last but not least, we have the normal dev dual threats. As you could probably guess, this guy basically fails spectacularly at every single avenue. Throw power check, no. Short, medium, or deep, no. Speed, no. The only check he actually has is acceleration. But if you could go below normal dev trait, this guy would probably have that, because he's pretty much a failure everywhere. Yes, I know there's the red gem in the middle left of his screen. I'm well aware. But as for most things, you don't have to have a gem to tell you they're a bust. You can do that yourself. You don't have to have a green gem to tell you they're special. You can do that yourself. Going back to the point about the whole gem thing, as you can see, Earl Smith, one of the best generational prospects I've ever seen at QB, notice to the left of his face and below his Ohio State portrait, there's no gem. Again, going back to my point of you don't need a gem to tell you they're generational or they're elite. You just have to look at their stats. The stats indicate far more things than what most people would give them credit for. Last for the archetypes we're going to be covering in this video, but certainly not least, we have Backfield Creators. Backfield Creators, in my opinion, if you're an ability person, you might want to get them for their abilities, but in my opinion, Backfield Creators are the biggest just clusterfuck you could possibly have. They are the biggest crapshoot. It is just the biggest. It's just, as you'll see, the stats they possess are just they're basically a hybrid of a athlete dual threat and a pocket passer. Which, if you want that, just go get an athletic pocket passer or go get a very good accurate dual threat. Like, their archetype's weird, but again, they're an archetype, so we'll cover it. As you can see, Elite on my ECU Dynasty, Elite 4-star Backfield Creator. Let's go look at his stats, as you will see. But notice how they're very different from the previous. The throwing stats for these guys are typically high 70s, right? If you can find them in the 80s, obviously that's amazing. But from my testing, from my experience, from all my info points I've jotted down doing hundreds of recruiting classes, typically they have high 70s, if not 80 throwing stats, whether it's a 4-star or a 5-star, which already is weird because for everyone else it was 80 plus. For them it's like 78, 79, which is weird. Throw power, as you can see, on average, these guys also have less throw power than everybody else, right? While we were looking for 93 plus throw power for dual threat athletes, for regular dual threats, and for pocket passers, for these guys, you're kind of looking for high to mid 80s, 86, 87, 88, hell, a 90 if you can even find that. Those are super rare, but typically their throw power is really low. So again, it makes finding them just that much more difficult when you can't consistently, find good versions of them. And then speed, here's the other thing that's really difficult for these guys with speed. Their speed points are all over the joint, right? You can find Elite Dev Backfield Creators with 77 speed. You can find them with 86 speed. They're, again, all over the joint. If they're there, I would typically lean on the side of faster is better, generally. So if I were to hypothetically find a Backfield Creator with like 88 throw power and like 80 speed, I would probably be like, okay, there's something there, right? Whereas if I were to find somebody with like 84 throw power and like 78 speed, I'd probably skip. Just not even worth. Also, sticking on my ECU Dynasty, Elite Dev Backfield Creator, yet again, another 75 overall. Let's look at his stats. And as you can see, again, it's just pattern recognition at this point. He is pretty much high 70s throwing stats, but he hits 80 throw deep, right? If you can find something 80 plus, that's great. But most of the time, it's going to be 77, 78, 79, give or take 80, around that general area. Throw power, as you guessed it, 88 throw power. So again, that mid to high 80s, 86, 87, 88, that general area. And then lastly, speed, 83 speed again. So typically speed better is, the better it is, the better you have a chance. But as you'll see momentarily, these guys have just the craziest speed thresholds, just as you can imagine. So this is going to be the first time in the video I've been actually able to do this, which is what all this was supposed to be. But again, things happen. To apologize. I'm so sorry. Here is a cluster I have found of Backfield Creators. That way you can see live how it compares to the people I've already have and how we can do a compare and contrast. So Elite Dev, what do we say? High 70s, if not 80, 79 short, 79, deep, check. There you go. 80 plus speed, check. There you go. Elite Dev. A bit low throw power on the 85 end. We would like that to be higher, like 86, 87, 88, that range, obviously. But there you go. Like I've mentioned, they're kind of the least appealing ones, to at least visually for me to look at. They don't look very good, but they can be. The second Elite Dev I was able to find was this gentleman. As you can see, he has a gem. This gentleman, no gem. No gem, gem. If at this point you haven't learned that gems don't matter, there you go. He also has Elite Dev. Let's go check out why. Why is he Elite Dev? 87 throw power. Okay, that makes sense. That's more to the upper percentile. There you go. 81 speed, again, makes sense. Upper percentile, check, check. Throwing stats, high 70s for the short, check. However, with deep, you can see it's 80, which there you go. So he pretty much matches every single criteria to the other two gentlemen on my other two dynasties. Fits perfectly. There you go. Now his throw medium's a bit, lackluster, but as you can see, there you go. If you generally follow that archetype, that build for the prospect, you can find success. For the one and lonely star dev I was able to find for Backfield Creator, 86 throw power, again, pretty good, not elite, 85, 86 around that area. Throwing stats, does he have anything high 70s? No, besides deep, but even then his deep is 77, right? That's still not very good. So his issue is the throwing stats. They are far below where you would like them to be. Speed, check. Acceleration, check. So the difference in between this guy and the previous two is literally just his throwing stats. If he had a couple better, if not a couple, if he had like 3 to 5 better throw short, 3 to 5 better medium, and like 1 or 2 better deep, he would probably have been an elite prospect. But nope, he's just a star dev because he doesn't have the accuracy, but he has everything else. So unfortunately, I couldn't find any impact dev Backfield Creators. I did find 2 normal devs, so unfortunately, you're going to have to look at these to kind of... Unfortunately, can't find everything, just how RNG works. Some don't generate, some don't spawn, whatever. Normal dev Backfield Creator, 85 throw power. He does have the relatively good throw power. Again, you would like to see higher, 86, 87, but 85 is not shabby. Throwing stats, he has, decent throw short. You would like it to be a bit higher, but 77 is not terrible. Same thing with deep, that's not terrible. Medium's horrific. Speed's horrific. Accuracy or acceleration, below average. You want to have like 84, 85, that's 82. If you can see, that's why he's normal dev, and the gentleman before him or below him, very similar story. Again, throw power, check. Short's kind of there. Medium's not there. Deep's kind of there, but speed's not there. Excel's not there. There you go. So if you're curious, that's kind of the general shtick. And so to review very quickly, and so to recap, if you're looking for elite 4 or 5 star prospects in the quarterback variety, the archetypes go as follow. Pocket passers, you want high 80s for shorts, but medium 80s for deep, medium, and shorts also fine. You want 93 plus throw power, and you want at least 80 to 81 plus speed and acceleration. For regular athletes, you want, again, very similar high 80s for throw short, 80 plus medium and deep. For throw power, 93 plus. For speed, mid 80s, right? Higher speed you can get for a regular dual threat. Better, but generally high 80s, 86, 87, 88, stuff like that. For a dual threat athlete, it's pretty much the same thing, but you want, higher 80s / low 90s for your speed parameter. But again, everything's generally the same. And then lastly, Backfield Creator. We just covered these, but I'm going to go ahead and include them just because it's the outro. Throwing stats, you want at least high 70s, if not touching the 80s. Throw power, you want high 80s, if not, the 90s, but at least high 80s. And for speed, you want to have that 83, 84, 82, the high to, or the mid to low 80s. That's generally it. If you follow these general blueprints, you will find plenty of elite dev or star dev QBs. Just to give you some, how well I'm able to spot my own QBs. As you can see, I can show you my QB room for ECU. My starter for this season is a 99 everything elite dev prospect. The guy behind him is an elite dev 80 overall. The guy behind him is a 79 star dev. My 4th string is an elite dev, and my 5th string is elite dev. There you go. And if you want to look at the rest of my roster, I'll go ahead and show you that. I've already crunched the math, but I'm going to go ahead and show you just because for the people who want to watch, go back and watch it, you can. But I have 66. Oh, I should have been more confident. I don't remember the exact number of the total players I have. I think it's 66, but I know for a fact I have 50 people, count it, 50 people on the dot that have elite dev or star dev. So 70-something% of my roster in this ECU dynasty is elite dev or star dev. A vast majority are. And before I get those obligatory comments, LOL, of course you have all those dev traits. You use strategist. I despise that perk every fiber by being, so of course I'm not going to use it. And B, I don't have it on my coordinators. I never have, never will, because the perk is useless. There you go. But Beastly, that is complete fluke. Of course it is. Let me hop onto a different dynasty. Here's the Owls, the Rice Owls, where I went 16-0 and won the Natty. My 4th string QB, Elite Dev. My 3rd string, Elite Dev. The 2 gentlemen above them, these guys are both Impact, but that was because they've been sitting here. As you can see, one's a redshirt senior who had atrocious skill caps. He was a 3rd, I think it was a 3-star I took a long time ago and never developed. And then this guy finally got his shot this year, and I'll just go ahead and pull up his stats. The reason why Mr. Doug got some play this season is, even though, as you can see, he's a dual threat QB right there. Very good throwing stats, very good throw power, almost max elusiveness, almost max, speed. So even though Doug is, and I quote, Impact Dev, he very easily could have been, not very easily, he is a phenomenal QB who I went 16-0 with. So why am I going to, bench the guy who I went 16-0 with, right? But yeah, there you go. This QB room technically is worse than the other one, but oh well. Now I'm going to show you my entire roster on the Rice Owls. Just like I had 50 or 51 people with star or better dev trait on Rice, I'm going to scroll down. And if you want to go back, count the video, go slow-mo it, you can. But on this roster, I have slightly less. I think I have 48 or 47. So for both dynasties, I have approximately 50 or star or better players on my rosters. Most of my rosters contain somewhere between 60 and 70 people. I typically don't ever keep my rosters anywhere near max. So again, 75-ish% of my rosters are filled with star or elite devs, and they don't get to stay on my roster very long because I average like 20 to 30 to 40 people recruiting, or excuse me, a draft class. So I don't get to keep them very long. So I'm constantly recruiting. I'm constantly, upkeeping my roster. So there you go. If you learned anything for this video, I appreciate you. Come up with a name for the series. I absolutely appreciate you guys. If you even like the series at all, if this video does very badly and nobody likes it, I'll probably can it. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Do apologize again. I had plans for a much better video originally, but due to audio issues, I kind of had to scrap it. So do apologize that on my behalf. If you're staying, around to the very end of the video, I appreciate you. I've left a few comment questions of the day, but for the comment emoji down below, leave a little football emoji. I feel like that's pretty fitting. We've not done that yet as a football, a lot of football videos in this channel. I'm not a football channel, but a lot of football videos. Leave a little football emoji down below. And yeah, guys, let's give our shout outs. As always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Give me a follow or sub on Twitch. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you can, please become a member. Members do get all videos like this early, whether it's a day early, a few hours early, a week early access to all my videos, extra perks on the channel, VIP streams, custom videos, all sorts of stuff. So please, if you can become a member, I would greatly appreciate that. And yeah, guys, I will see ya when I see ya. Deuces.